The night my husband told a table full of people he deserved better than this, I was standing in my own kitchen, holding a cracked salad bowl with wet hands, pretending I couldn't hear him. The bowl had a thin hairline fracture running along the side. I dropped it once, years ago, and kept it anyway because it was good enough. I remember staring at that crack while my heart was doing the same thing inside my chest, splitting, quietly. Our apartment smelled like roasted chicken and rosemary. The good plates were out, the wine glasses we never used unless his friends were coming over. I'd spent the whole afternoon cooking. Herb chicken, garlic mashed potatoes, roasted vegetables, a peach cobbler cooling on the counter. Soft jazz played from the Bluetooth speaker. Candles lit. Napkins folded the way his mother liked. Because tonight was important. His words, not mine. "It's not just dinner, Jade," he'd said that morning, knotting his tie in the mirror. "This is networking. These are the people who can put me in rooms I need to be in. Can you just try not to make it weird?" I'd laughed it off at the time like I always did. Make what weird? He'd shrugged. You know, getting all emotional. Talking about your little business stuff or whatever. Just keep it light. My little business stuff. The online branding clients I took on after hours. Squeezing logos and strategy calls between my 9 to 5 and his shifting moods. The thing that was slowly becoming more than stuff, even if he refused to see it. By 7 o'clock, our tiny dining room looked like something off a Pinterest board. I changed out of my leggings into a simple black dress that hugged my curves just enough. Pulled my curls into a high puff, a gold hoop in each ear, a touch of gloss. I looked in the mirror and thought, "You look nice." Then I heard his voice behind me. "You're not going to wear something a little more polished?" I turned. "What's wrong with this?" He glanced at me, then back at his phone. "Nothing. Never mind. It's fine. They're just used to a certain kind of presentation, that's all." A certain kind. Not me. Not the girl from the South Side whose mama worked doubles and whose idea of a dinner party growing up was 3 aunties, a crock pot, and folding chairs. I swallowed it, smiled anyway. "I'll be presentable, Marcus. Don't worry." By 8, they were all here. 2 of his co-workers from the firm, Devin and Liam, and their partners. Devin's wife, Alana, floated in like she belonged on a magazine cover. Slim, straight hair, something designer and beige wrapped around her. Liam's girlfriend, Chloe, was the Instagram version of soft life. Neutral nails, delicate jewelry, expensive perfume that clung to the air. I greeted them at the door, took coats, offered wine. "You made all this?" Alana asked later, eyes widening as I set the dishes down. "Yeah," I said, a little shy. "I like to cook." "Oh my God, if Marcus doesn't marry you twice, I will," she laughed. "Devin gets Uber Eats and vibes." Everyone laughed. Marcus draped an arm around my shoulder, gave me a quick squeeze, like I was a throw pillow he was fluffing in front of guests. "She spoils me," he said. "I keep telling her she should have gone to culinary school instead of wasting time with branding or whatever." "Brand strategy," I corrected softly, heading back to the kitchen. And I didn't waste time. If he heard it, he ignored it. Dinner started light. Work stories, office gossip, sports. I floated in and out of the dining room, topping off glasses, refilling bowls, laughing at jokes I'd heard 100 times. That's what a good wife does, right? She orbits. Stays close enough to be helpful, far enough not to interfere. Every so often, I'd slide into my chair next to Marcus, take a bite or two before hopping back up to grab something else. "Babe, sit down," Devin said at one point, smiling. "Food's amazing. You gotta eat too, you know." "I will," I said. "Just want to make sure everyone's good." Marcus chuckled. "She's like this all the time. Can't sit still." It wasn't a compliment the way he said it. The conversation shifted the way it always does when men in their early 30s with new salaries and too much ego sit around a table together. Promotions, bonuses, who was on track for partner, who was being dead weight. "So tell them, man," Liam said, nudging Marcus with his elbow. Tell them what your manager hinted at. I was pouring water. I heard the tone change, an electric, smug little buzz, and knew this was the moment. Marcus leaned back in his chair, cradling his wine glass like a trophy. "They're expanding the division," he said, casually, but his voice had that shine to it, and my name came up for regional lead. "It's not official yet, so don't go blasting it on Instagram, but the door's open." Devin whistled. Big boss energy. "Okay, Marcus," Chloe said. "We love to see it." Alana raised her glass. To Marcus, soon to be regional king. Glasses lifted. I felt my heart swell, pride and something like relief washing through me. I knew how many late nights, how many weekends he'd put in. I'd seen the grind up close. I'd fueled it with packed lunches, prepaid bills, quiet patience. I raised my own glass, standing slightly behind his chair. "To Marcus," I said, smiling. "You worked hard for this. You deserve it." That should have been the end of it. A simple toast. A nice moment. But pride is a hungry thing. It always wants just one more bite. Devin grinned. "Bro, when you officially get that title, you know it's over for the rest of us, right? New car, bigger place, fancier everything." Liam laughed. "Yeah, man, you're about to level up your whole life." It was a joke, but I watched Marcus's eyes flick to me, just for a second. That's when it happened. He smirked, swirling his wine like some discount movie villain. "Man," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "All I know is, after everything I've done, I definitely deserve better than this." It was one of those sentences that lands in the room and sucks all the air out with it. Better than this? The cramped apartment, the mismatched furniture, the cracked salad bowl, the wife in the black dress with curls and hoop earrings, and a small branding business on her laptop. Me. Devin chuckled weakly. "Come on, bro. Don't say that." Alana shot him a look. Chloe stared down at her plate. Liam did that nervous laugh men do when they don't know if they're supposed to agree or distance themselves. I didn't move. I stood there, still holding the pitcher, water trembling against the glass. My smile stayed frozen on my face like someone had stapled it there. "Marcus," I said quietly, "what does that mean?" He glanced back at me, already in performance mode. "Relax, Jade. It's a joke. You know, better car, better house, better setup. Don't do the whole feelings thing right now. Better house, better car, better setup." That wasn't how it landed. Not for me. Not for the people at the table who suddenly couldn't look at me. Because everyone in that room knew exactly who had stretched her paycheck to cover the rent when his commission hadn't hit yet. Who'd skipped her hair appointment so the light bill got paid on time. Who'd taken on extra design gigs so his credit card wouldn't get declined in front of his boss. I felt something inside me detach, not explode, not shatter, just unhook, like a coat falling off a hanger in slow motion. I set the pitcher down so carefully it didn't make a sound. "Oh, come on," he added, sensing the shift. "You'll know what I mean. A man works this hard. He doesn't want to be stuck in some little two-bedroom in the hood forever. I deserve better than all this struggle." There it was, the word stuck, the word struggle. The life we'd built together, reduced to something he'd accidentally stepped in. Devin opened his mouth like he wanted to say something, then closed it. No one wanted to challenge the man who might soon be signing their performance reviews. Alana's eyes met mine for half a second. There was apology there. And pity. Pity burned more than the insult. I laughed. I don't know where it came from. A small, sharp sound that made everyone jump. "Excuse me," I said. My voice was calm, too calm. "I forgot the cobbler in the oven." The cobbler was not in the oven. It was on the counter, perfectly fine. I walked into the kitchen anyway, closed the door softly behind me. The music was still playing, some saxophone solo crooning about lost love. I gripped the edge of the counter so hard my knuckles went white. In the dining room, I heard Marcus's voice, muffled but still loud. "She's sensitive, man. You know how it is." No, I thought, you don't know. None of you do. In that moment, something inside me died. Not my self-worth. That had been under attack for years and somehow kept regenerating like stubborn grass through concrete. Not my love for him exactly, though that took a bullet too. What died was the part of me that believed if I just cooked a little better, dressed a little nicer, cried a little softer, he would finally look at me and see home instead of this. I pressed my forehead against the cool cabinet door and let one single tear fall. Just one. Then I wiped it away with the back of my hand. By the time I walked back into that dining room, my face was smooth. My smile was back. I set the cobbler down like nothing had happened. Poured more wine. Cracked a joke. Watched them all relax. If Marcus noticed the difference in my eyes, he didn't show it. But inside, the shift had already begun. He thought he'd made a harmless, "I deserve better" comment in front of his friends. What he'd really done was mark the exact night his wife stopped trying to prove she was enough for him and started quietly planning a life where she would never again stand in her own home and listen to a man talk about her like she was a mistake he was trying to upgrade from. The funny thing about dying inside is that the world doesn't stop. The next morning, the sun still came through those thin blinds. The garbage truck still rattled down our street at 6 a.m. My alarm still went off at 7:15, like nothing had happened. For a second, half asleep, I forgot. Then I rolled over and saw Marcus snoring beside me, his phone face down on the nightstand, his tie from last night draped over a chair. And it all came flooding back. I deserve better than this. Not whispered in a fight, not muttered in frustration, said like a punchline over wine glasses and candlelight, with people he wanted to impress. I stared at the ceiling and realized, if I stayed exactly who I was, exactly as I was, this man would spend the next 20 years blaming me for every single thing he didn't like about his life. That thought settled over me like a heavy blanket. Then, slowly, it turned into something else. A decision. I didn't shake him awake. I didn't demand an apology. I didn't start a tearful, "How could you say that?" argument that would end in him rolling his eyes and calling me dramatic. I slipped out of bed, made coffee, and sat at the little kitchen table with my laptop. For the first time, I opened my banking app and really looked. Not just, do we have enough for rent? But, who is actually paying for this life he thinks he deserves better than? I scrolled, my paycheck hitting the joint account like clockwork. Groceries, internet, light bill, most of the rent. His contributions were there, but spottier. Commission checks, then gaps. Payments to Prime Steakhouse, Bottle Bar, and Uber Black that lined up suspiciously well with nights he said he was networking. I knew this already in that vague, tired wife way. But seeing it in cold numbers, on a clean white screen, did something to me. He wasn't just saying he deserved better than this. He was saying he deserved better than the life I was patchworking together, so he could pretend he was already that man. I closed the app and opened a new Google Doc. At the top, I typed 3 sentences. I will never beg this man to see my value again. I will never be financially trapped in a house with someone who talks about me like I'm a problem. He will not see me coming. The document looked ridiculous, dramatic, like something a teenager writes after a breakup. I almost laughed, but I didn't delete it. I named it something boring, Q2 brand notes, and slid it into a folder on my drive. That was day 1. The transformation didn't look dramatic from the outside. That's the thing people never tell you. Revenge doesn't always start with fire. Sometimes it starts with a calendar, a budget, and a pair of headphones. At work, on my lunch breaks, I stopped scrolling Instagram and started consuming every branding and business course I could find. I watched videos, read case studies, took notes like I was back in school. At night, instead of collapsing on the couch next to Marcus while he watched sports and complained about his coworkers, I sat at that same kitchen table, laptop open, building. My little business stuff stopped being a hobby and became a plan. I updated my portfolio, raised my prices, opened a brand new checking account in just my name and linked it to a payment processor. The first time a client sent $750 straight into that account, not the joint one, not the us pot, but into money that was mine, I stared at the screen so long the app logged me out. It wasn't about the amount. It was about the feeling. If he walked out tomorrow, I wouldn't starve. That realization loosened something in my chest that had been tight for years. Meanwhile, in our apartment, the performance continued. Marcus strutted around like the promotion was already official. He started dressing a little sharper, dropping little hints in conversations about when I'm regional. He added extra cologne before work, took a little longer in the mirror. He never once brought up what he'd said at dinner. The first few days, I waited. I thought maybe he'd circle back, say, "Hey, about last night, I went too far." Nothing. Instead, he'd come home and toss his bag on the couch. "What's for dinner?" I used to jump up, apologizing if it wasn't ready. Now, if I was on a Zoom call with a client, I put a finger up without looking away from the screen and finished my sentence. "So if we shift your color palette towards something more mature, it'll match the audience you say you want," I told the woman on the laptop. "I can mock up 2 options this week." Marcus mouthed something at me from the doorway. "Babe," I kept talking. "I'll send the contract tonight," I said, and smiled. "And just so you know, I raise my rates next quarter, so I'm glad we got you in now." When I finally ended the call, I found him in the kitchen, opening cabinets like a lost child. "You couldn't have this conversation in the bedroom?" he asked. "I just walked into my own house and had to whisper in my kitchen." "My office is in the bedroom," I said calmly, "and you always complain that I hide in there, so tonight I worked where you could see me." He frowned. "So, what, you're too busy now? No food?" "There's food," I said, nodding toward the fridge. "Leftover pasta. You just have to heat it up." He stared at me like I'd spoken another language. "You're acting different," he muttered finally. "I am different," I said. "You told me you deserve better than this. I heard you." He shifted, uncomfortable. "I told you that was a joke." "Yeah," I said, walking past him to grab my notebook. "I know." I just stopped finding it funny. He didn't have a comeback for that. Weeks turned into months, little shifts piled up. I stopped saying yes to everything. When he wanted to host another dinner to impress someone from work, I didn't automatically volunteer to cook for 6. "You know you don't actually have to play housewife to get a promotion, right?" I said, keeping my eyes on my laptop. "There are restaurants built for that." He rolled his eyes. "You're being petty." "No," I said. "I'm being realistic. You want better? Better can cater." We ordered in that night. The world didn't end. I reclaimed my time in other small ways too. I started walking in the mornings, headphones in, podcast playing, 30 minutes before work, where I wasn't someone's employee or someone's wife. Just Jade. I went to therapy, quietly, on my lunch breaks. I sat across from a black woman with gentle eyes, who didn't flinch when I said, "My husband tells his friends he deserves better than me, and then acts confused when I'm not grateful." "What do you want?" she asked me one day, simple as breathing. No one had asked me that in a long time without adding, "That's realistic." I didn't have a tidy answer, but I knew what I didn't want. To be 50, standing over another cracked bowl in another rented kitchen, listening to the same man still complaining that he could have done better in life if only I'd been less me. So I wrote lists, things I love, skills I have, people who actually light up when I walk into a room. Because here's the thing. It's easier to believe you're not enough when your entire universe is one man and his opinion. The more I expanded my world, even just through clients on Zoom and walks around the block, the less his voice sounded like God, and the more it sounded like what it really was, a scared, insecure man talking loud so no one noticed his own cracks. At home, he felt it. "You don't talk to me like you used to," he said one night, flopping onto the couch. "You're always on that laptop." I'm working, I said. On what? Those little side gigs? He scoffed. Baby, you know that's not real money. You're stressing yourself for nothing. I didn't argue. Instead, I opened my Q2 brand notes file and quietly added a line. He thinks my income is imaginary. Continue letting him think that. Because by then, those little side gigs were about to cover a full month's rent. On a random Tuesday, a former coworker slid into my DMs. Hey Jade, saw your designs on that wellness brand page. Do you do corporate branding? My cousin's starting his own firm and needs a full package. We hopped on a call. I pitched like I had a team behind me instead of a single laptop and a brain full of YouTube tutorials and lived experience. He sent over a contract request the next day. Retainer. 4 figures. Up front. I stared at the number, then at my reflection in the laptop screen. 32. Black. The girl who'd grown up counting change at the corner store, now getting ready to send an invoice that used to be my monthly salary amount. I didn't show Marcus. Instead, I printed the contract, signed it, and tucked the copy into a plain manila folder in my desk labeled Caxes. Behind that folder, I kept another envelope, copies of our lease, a list of the bills in my name, screenshots of his text messages on nights he was networking. Until 2 a.m., the time-stamped bank withdrawals where money vanished into ATMs across town. Not because I planned to blow up his life in court, but because I refused to ever again let a man gaslight me into believing I was crazy, overly sensitive, or misremembering what he'd done. Receipts aren't just for lawyers. Sometimes they're for your own sanity. The night before his almost promotion meeting with upper management, he came to me with that same entitled tone he'd used 100 times before, like nothing had changed. Babe, you still do those presentation things, right? He asked, leaning against the doorway of our bedroom. Dex, I said. Slide design, yeah. He sighed dramatically. They want me to present a vision for modernizing client experience. I've got the ideas, but the slides? He grimaced. They gotta look good. Can you make them, pretty? Old Jade would have said, of course, and stayed up until 2 a.m. making his ideas shine. New Jade tilted her head. Send me what you have, I said. I'll see. He dropped a messy Word doc into my inbox an hour later. Half-formed sentences, buzzwords thrown together like confetti. Branch touchpoints, customer journey, storytelling. I recognized some of the phrases. They were my words. Things I'd said out loud in our kitchen when I was excited about a client project. Things he'd pretended not to care about. Now he needed them. I sat there looking at the screen, feeling the quiet power of that shift. I could have said no, but something in me knew this was important. So, I opened a blank slide deck and went to work. Not as a wife doing a favor, but as a strategist doing what she does best. I built a full narrative, defined the problem, outlined a solution, created a streamlined customer journey map, added clean visuals and mock-ups. By the time I was done, it was a full-blown proposal that could have easily carried my name and my rate card. When I sent it back, he didn't respond for 40 minutes. Then, damn, this is fire. You really did that. They're gonna eat this up. No thank you. No offer to pay me. Just assumed access. Glad it works, I typed back. Good luck. He kissed my forehead the next morning on his way out. If this goes the way I think, we both eat, he said, straightening his tie. Ride with me and you'll be good. Ride with him is a paper. Like I was some passenger in a car he didn't even know I'd helped build. When the door closed behind him, I sat at the table and opened 2 things. My email, where a new client had just signed a contract of their own, and a fresh document titled Exit Strategy. Because by then, I wasn't just transforming my schedule or my bank account. I was quietly, methodically building a life where his opinion of what he deserved would have absolutely nothing to do with what I allowed myself to have. He thought I was getting distant because I was mad. He had no idea distance was simply step 1 of my freedom. And he definitely had no idea that the same slides he was about to present as his genius would become the very thing that made him regret ever underestimating the woman who created them. The email that changed everything didn't even have his name in it. It landed in my inbox on a Wednesday afternoon, sandwiched between a Canva notification and a coupon from Target. Subject line, Inquiry, Brand Strategy Consultation, referred by internal staff. I clicked it absent-mindedly, already half thinking about dinner. Then I saw the sender. HR Director at his company name, hiscompanyname.com. I read it twice. Hi Jade. We've been shown some of your recent brand work and presentation structures, and we're really impressed with your ability to turn vague ideas into clear narratives. We're looking to modernize our client experience and internal storytelling. Would you be open to a short, paid consultation and possibly a workshop with our leadership team next week? My pulse skipped. Attached was a screenshot of one of my decks. The layout, the color blocking, the way the story flowed, mine. Underneath it, one line. Apparently you helped one of our team members shape this. Apparently. I scrolled to the bottom. Devin's name was there in the thread. That made sense. He'd been at our place that night. He'd seen what my little business stuff really looked like. I pictured him, quietly forwarding my work after Marcus bragged about throwing some slides together. I replied with professional calm I absolutely did not feel. Hi, name. Thanks so much for reaching out. I'd be happy to discuss how I can help. Here's my rate card and availability for next week. I attached my portfolio, the one Marcus had never bothered to look at, and hit send. 10 minutes later, I had a confirmation for a paid consultation. 30 minutes after that, a deposit hit my business account. They scheduled me for Tuesday morning, same day Marcus was scheduled to present his vision to upper management. I didn't tell him. It wasn't petty, it was policy. My contract had a confidentiality clause, and I wasn't about to jeopardize the first real corporate client who saw my value just to keep my husband comfortable. Besides, he'd been very clear about not wanting me to make things weird with his job. So I didn't. I just quietly accepted the fact that the same company where he thought he deserved better than this was now paying this to teach them what he'd been pretending was his idea. The morning of the meeting, the whole apartment vibrated with his energy. He was up early, ironing his shirt twice, checking his tie in the hallway mirror like the glass was a camera lens. He sprayed cologne, then sprayed it again. How's it look? He asked, spinning once. Like you're about to talk to people with money, I said, sipping my coffee. He grinned. Exactly. I kill this presentation, it's over. Regional lead, bigger bonus, maybe even a company car. We're out of this place in 6 months, watch. He still talked like I was luggage he planned to upgrade, not a person with her own boarding pass. What time's your meeting? I asked. 10, he said. Big dogs, all of them. Mine's at 9, I said casually. He frowned. Yours? Yeah, got a consult downtown. I took another sip. Corporate client. He blinked. Oh, nice. The dismissal slipped out before he could catch it. Don't stress yourself too much, okay? Those little gigs burn you out for nothing. I stood up, grabbed my laptop bag. Have a good day, Marcus. He kissed my cheek. You too. Wish me luck, I said, and meant it. I wasn't out for his head. I was out for my freedom. The universe, though, has its own sense of humor. 30 minutes later, I was in the elevator of his building, our building now, I guess, with my laptop bag slung over my shoulder, trying to slow my breathing. I'd done my hair in a sleek low bun, swapped my usual hoodie for a soft cream blouse and tailored trousers. My gold hoops were smaller today, but they were still there. I refused to disappear myself to be professional. A receptionist led me to a glass-walled conference room with a view of the city and a carafe of water that probably cost more than our couch. Someone from leadership will be with you in a minute, she said. I set up my laptop, laid out my notebook, and waited. The door opened. Jade, hi, I'm Melissa, Director of HR. This is Aaron from Marketing. Behind them, a third figure stepped in. Devin. He gave me a quick, guilty smile. Told you she was the real deal. He murmured to them, not to me. We shook hands, sat down, talked. They asked smart questions. I gave clear answers. We walked through how storytelling worked in corporate decks, why their current presentations felt flat, how they could align their internal culture with the brand they claimed to be. 15 minutes in, Melissa leaned back, nodding. This is exactly what we need. Aaron tapped his pen. We've got another session at 10 with one of our own guys pitching a vision for the same thing, he said. It might be useful to have you in the room, if you're open to it. Just to observe, maybe give us your take afterwards. I tried to keep my face neutral. I'm open to that, I said. Great, Melissa smiled. We'll loop you in. You can sit toward the back so no one feels thrown off. She had no idea. At 9:58, I slipped quietly into the big boardroom at the end of the hall, laptop tucked under my arm like armor. Executives were filtering in, gray suits, polished shoes, lanyards with titles like SVP and director. I took a seat near the back, where the wall met the glass, half hidden behind a potted plant that looked too healthy to be real. Marcus was already there. He stood at the front of the room, fussing with the HDMI cable, that same almost promotion confidence radiating off him. He hadn't seen me yet. Watching him from that distance was surreal. This was the man who'd told his friends he deserved better than the life we had. A man who'd brushed off my work as little business stuff. The man who'd handed me a Word document full of scattered phrases and expected magic for free. And there he was, in front of a screen filled with my magic, my structure, my story, my slides. He'd made some changes, swapped a color here, added a corny clip art icon there, but the bones were unmistakable. Melissa and Aaron slid into seats near the middle. Devin took a chair at the side, catching my eye for a second. There was something like apology there, but also a spark of, "You've got this." Marcus glanced toward Melissa, then froze. He saw me. Our eyes met across the boardroom. I watched his expression shift. Surprise, confusion, then a quick calculation as he tried to slot me into a version of reality that made sense to him. He recovered fast. Gave me a little head tilt like, "What are you doing here?" I offered him nothing. Just a calm, steady look, and then my attention back to the front. "All right, everyone," Melissa said. "Thanks for making time. Marcus has been working on a proposal for modernizing our client experience. We're exploring a few approaches, so consider this a working session." Marcus smiled, that practiced half grin. "Thanks, Melissa. Morning, everyone." He clicked to the first slide. Title: Human Stories, Modern Clients. A new way to present who we are. My title, word for word. I felt my jaw tighten. He launched into the pitch, walking them through the pain points, the outdated decks, the way clients tuned out when faced with walls of text. Every time he shifted to a new section, I saw my fingerprints. Slide after slide, he painted himself as the visionary who'd seen the light. He even used one of my case study examples, a small brand I'd worked with last year. He'd changed the name, but not the structure. It would have been almost impressive if it didn't make my skin crawl. About 10 minutes in, Aaron leaned toward Melissa and murmured something. She frowned slightly. "Marcus," she said, lifting a hand. "Quick question." He paused midpoint. "Yeah? These frameworks," she said slowly. "Did you develop them all yourself?" The room stilled. He chuckled. "Yeah. I mean..." "What do you mean?" "Obviously I've looked at best practices, but the way it's put together, that's all me." Devin's pen stopped moving. His jaw flexed. Melissa glanced back at me then, just for a second, like she was confirming something. "Interesting," she said, "because we just came from a consultation with an external brand strategist who showed us a very similar structure." Marcus's smile wobbled. "Oh, yeah, my wife does some freelance stuff. She helped clean it up a bit." He said it like she'd maybe corrected a typo or two. "But the ideas? They're mine." There it was. Not just theft, erasure. I felt something in me go perfectly, dangerously still. Aaron tapped his pen again. "I'm curious," he said, turning in his chair to look directly at me now. "Jade, would you mind coming up here for a moment?" Every eye in the room swung my way. Marcus went rigid. "Wait, why is she—" Melissa gave him a reassuring smile that wasn't really reassuring. "We'd just like a little clarity," she said, "since you mentioned she helped." I stood up, walked to the front of the room, heels clicking against the polished floor. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it was visible, but my voice, when I spoke, was steady. "Hi," I said, nodding. "Morning." Up close with the projector light washing over us both, Marcus looked smaller, younger. Less like the man who'd declared he deserved better than this, more like the boy who'd never imagined this would stand next to him and be competition. Aaron folded his arms. "Jade, can you tell us in your own words how much of this deck you worked on?" I looked at the slides, then at Marcus. "We're exploring a few approaches, right?" I said carefully. "So here's one. Honesty." A few people shifted in their seats. Devin exhaled quietly. "I built the structure," I said. "The narrative, the flow, the section breaks. I wrote most of the copy, including this title." I clicked back to the opening slide. "We had a conversation at home about your pain points, what you said was missing in your pitches. I translated that into this." Marcus swallowed. "Babe, that's not—" "I'm not your babe in this room," I said, still looking at the screen. "I'm the strategist you asked to make you look like you knew what you were talking about." A beat of silence. I turned to the table. "I shared this with him as a favor," I continued. "Unpaid, on my own time. The same day he told a table full of people he deserved better than the life we built together." I hadn't meant to say that last part. It slipped out, hung in the air. Devin closed his eyes for a moment. Melissa's expression sharpened. Aaron cleared his throat. "Marcus," he said slowly, "why wasn't this collaboration made clear from the start?" Marcus flushed, anger and embarrassment fighting for space on his face. "I mean, come on," he snapped. "We're married. What's mine is hers. What's hers is mine. It doesn't matter who typed it. The point is I brought it here." "And that," Melissa said quietly, "is actually a huge problem." Her tone had shifted. The room felt colder. She glanced at me. "Jade, thank you. You can go back to your seat for now." I could have stayed. I could have watched the full dissection, but I'd said what I needed to say. I walked back to my chair and sat down. The rest of the meeting unraveled slowly, like a suit coming apart at the seams. They asked Marcus about process, about intellectual property, about disclosures. They asked why no one had been informed that he was relying heavily on external work that they were now, ironically, paying ME to provide separately. By the time it was over, his promotion pitch had transformed into a quiet conversation about ethics, trust, and fit for leadership. When I left the building, the sky felt bigger, brighter. I stood on the sidewalk, took a deep breath, and checked my phone. Payment from the consult cleared. Email from Melissa. "We'd like to extend this into a longer-term engagement. Can we talk next week?" No message from Marcus. Not yet. HR. He came home late. No cologne this time. No swagger. He dropped his keys in the bowl by the door and just stood there, shoulders slumped. I was at the table with my laptop closed, a manila envelope beside my coffee mug. "How'd it go?" I asked. He stared at me. His eyes were red around the edges. "You humiliated me," he said, "in front of everyone." I tilted my head. "Did I?" "You couldn't just let me have this," he exploded. "One thing. You had to come in there and act like I stole from you." "I didn't act," I said calmly. "You did steal from me." He threw his hands up. "It's ours, Jade. We're married. Why are you trying to make me look bad?" I leaned back in my chair. "You did that all by yourself when you stood up in my house, eating food I cooked, using slides I built, and told your friends you deserved better than this." He flinched, just a little. "That was a joke," he muttered. It was a thesis statement, I said, and today was your conclusion. He paced the length of the living room, hands on his head. They're reconsidering the promotion now, he said bitterly. HR wants to review expectations. Aaron wouldn't look at me on the way out. Devon's acting weird. You ruined it. No, I said softly. You did. Silence stretched between us. Finally, he stopped pacing, looked at me like he was really seeing me for the first time in years. You're different, he said. I am, I agreed. I stopped believing that my job was to make you feel like a king while you talked about me like I was your court jester. I pushed the manila envelope toward him. And since you think you deserve better, I'm giving you the chance to go find it. He stared at the envelope like it might bite him. What is this? Copies, I said, of everything we'll need. On top was a printed email from my therapist's office, confirming my last 6 months of sessions. Under it, my contract with his company. Further down, bank statements, a proposed separation agreement, a drafted lease for a small one-bedroom I'd already been approved for. And the last page, a list. New business account, 3 retained clients, savings, 6 months expenses. Movers, booked for Friday. His hands shook as he flipped through. You planned this, he whispered. Yes, I said, the night you told a room full of people you deserved better than me. Something inside me died. I'm not going to spend the rest of my life resuscitating it for you. Tears sprang to his eyes. So that's it? He choked. You're just done after everything? I stood up, picked up my keys. You wanted better, I said quietly. You made that very clear. You just didn't realize I did too. I walked to the door, then paused, turned back one last time. For what it's worth, I added, you were right about one thing. You did deserve better than this. His head snapped up, hope flickering. You deserved better than the man you decided to become, I finished. Too bad I was the only one in this marriage willing to grow. The hope died. Regret flooded in behind it, raw and naked. Jade, please, he said, voice cracking. Don't go. I didn't know how good I had it. I swear I can fix it. I'll give you credit. You'll what? I asked. Start treating me like my value existed the whole time? No, Marcus, that's not a favor. That's the bare minimum. And I already built a life where I don't have to beg for it. I opened the door. Behind me, I heard the soft thud of him sinking onto the couch, the same couch he'd once slumped on, and complained about like it was beneath him. Now, it was all he had. I hope you get everything you think you deserve, I said over my shoulder. I really do. Then I stepped into the hallway and closed the door on the life where I died a little every time he opened his mouth. Months later, I saw him by accident. I was walking into a co-working space downtown, laptop bag on my shoulder, my business name on the glass door, Jade Cole Brand Studio, when I spotted him across the street. No tailored suit, no promotion, just a man in a wrinkled shirt, holding a to-go coffee cup like it was the only warmth he had left. He saw me. For a second, our eyes met. I watched the regret slam into him like a wave. The remembered slides, the boardroom, the envelope on our table, the life I'd taken with me when I left. He lifted a hand, half wave, half plea. I gave him what he'd given me for years. Nothing. I turned my face toward the door with my name on it and walked inside. He was right. He did deserve better than this. So did I. The difference was, I actually went and got it.